Hello and welcome to the NHL Best Bets. Today is trade deadline day, but we'll start with yesterday results. Washington played in Boston. Our pick was road victory there, and road victory it was actually 8-1. Washington beat Boston. Boston had some issues with defenders injuries, but that wasn't at full extent included in simulation. Still, Washington had a good value and they realized it fully. Then Dallas played in Nashville, very even game. Dallas won shots in the game, but Nashville won the game in shootout 3-2. So daily result was ±0. Tommy, how do you saw these games?
I think both of the games were pretty much exactly as we predicted. Of course, we didn't predict 1-8 to be the score in Boston, but when seeing the injuries and the players absent from Boston's roster, it was quite certain that Washington will take this game if they are playing to their better level, and they did, especially in the offense now with this AHL defense core that Boston had to ice for this game. Capitals took full advantage of it and scored from pretty much all the chances early on they got. So went ahead 3 goals in the first period already, and it was pretty much game over from that point. So a good pick from us, a nice value there for a better team, and when taking into consideration the rosters, even better when we approach the game. So very good bet. In Nashville, in Tennessee, the same sort of thing. We had this pegged as exactly as it went, except that Dallas was supposed to take the final score. This time shootout went for the Predators. Maybe a little bit more defensive than we thought. Could have been maybe 2 more goals for Dallas, but Juuse Saros once again was the man of the match for Nashville and saved his team when they had some issues in the second period, especially. Good short-handed play as well from Nashville. They've improved a lot, so this will be a very tough team to beat down the stretch now that they've gotten their game together. So it was a good example of a playoff style hockey. Dallas as well in the mix, so interesting situation in that division for the final playoff spot.
Yeah, that was very tight game, and it's a very important matchup between these two teams when they are fighting for the last playoff spots in the Central Division. Yesterday we discussed a little bit about this 6-game road parlay, and that wasn't too far away at the end because we had teams correct there. Colorado won. Pittsburgh won, Washington won like predicted, and then in overtime New York Islanders took a home victory against Rangers, and like I said, Nashville did same in shootout. So out of these 5 games, road victory or tie would be good bet for parlay, but naturally, there were some of these big favorites like Colorado and Pittsburgh that just took care of business as expected.
Yeah, that's the problem with parlays, is that it's nothing if you get 3 out of 6 correct. So also a very close game. Arizona Vegas 1-0 game. So close one there. Not a very good quality game, but 1 goal victory for Vegas instead of the road team Arizona. So incorrect there as well. But yeah, well, let's keep an eye out on these road winners in the system, because it has been going pretty well for that part. So we'll see how this will play out in the future. But let's stay away from the parlays anyway.
How our machine did based on these results last night, because there were some correct, but I think there were not any kind of big upsets in favor of the simulations.
Yeah, that's true. The games correct had pretty lousy odds this time, so we made a minus 225 from last night. Only 3 games inside value correct, and those were Pittsburgh, Colorado, and Washington. So Washington, the only one that had any sort of positive odds in the American system. So, like for example, Colorado made a profit of plus 26. So it's not a very lucrative way to make money. But of course, when you have value for the better team, sometimes it is worth it because sometimes the games are just as clear as the odds indicate, or even more clearer.
Tonight there is another set of games, 8 altogether, and we have selected 2 home games here. Road favorite Vegas and Chicago by the bookmakers, but there's good value for Columbus and LA Kings as a home team, especially for the Kings, plus 165 against Vegas, who played last night against Arizona at home, now travels to LA and plays against Kings second night in a row. So home team have good value, even though Vegas is favorite to win this game. Then Chicago Columbus, second game in a row between these teams. Chicago won first one 4-3. It was very even game, but at the end they made goals that Columbus didn't. Now Columbus general manager Jarmo Kekäläinen has started to dealing and wheeling and sent 2 of the top players to other teams, receiving 2 first-round picks and something else for those. But in simulations, Columbus is not changing too much because of these 2. They have been out of the games, at least Nick Foligno for previous game, and of course that provides some kind of opportunity for other players to stand up and show that, hey, we want to make something to happen. So good value for Columbus as well, plus 112 at home.
Yeah, now we go definitely for the value here. We have good value for the home team, Columbus, against Chicago. Quite similar teams in similar situation. Neither team playing very well. Probably not certain to make the playoffs, at least. Still in contest, of course. Columbus traded away Nick Foligno and David Savard from the defense. Couple of guys. But Columbus is not a team that would heavily rely on any individual. So, like you mentioned, replacement value for these guys is almost as much. When you get a little bit more playing time for a couple of young guys, you have players who are playing for their contracts. You have players who are playing for their chance to show that they belong in the NHL. So especially when you have a coach like John Tortorella, they are going to play with 4 lines. They're going to go aggressive. They're going to cause some issues to Chicago. Chicago has a little bit more offensive talent at the moment. They got Kirby Duck back. Alex DeBrincat is full fit. Still missing Jonathan Taves, of course, but they have a little bit more balanced offense, especially in the offense. But I do think that Columbus has a great chance of taking the second issue after losing the first one with a quite bad performance in the second period, where they were heavily outrun by Chicago. Then got a little bit back to it. Patrik Laine scored a goal, so he might be the individual then who will lead Columbus to victory. In the simulations, we have about 48% of the games going for Columbus, and the odds indicate a little bit less than 47%. So we do have nice little value there, and I do think that Columbus might be playing a little bit better now when their leading players are out, and now they have to show that, okay, we are part of NHL and not just another Detroit. Also, similar sort of pick from California, Los Angeles Kings. Like you have the Cap 2014, Jeff Carter left to Penguins. So another slot open from the veterans to the younger guys. That's something that the Kings have tried to do throughout the season, or actually already a couple of seasons. Not too much to show from these young guys in Kings. Now again, similar sort of thing. They're playing for their contracts. They're playing for their chance in the show. I do think that it will be a slight improvement, at least in the short run, for the Kings. Vegas, on the other hand, one of the best teams in the league, no doubt about that. But with these sort of odds, you have to go for the home team. Vegas already in the mode for preparation for the playoffs. They have not played that well lately. 1-0 win against Arizona in a pretty lackluster game. Of course, before that, they beat Arizona comfortably. So Vegas is a better team. There is no question about this. But in this situation, I think Kings will take the home win. And simulations have them 46% favorites. And the odds, like we saw, were somewhere around 170 plus. So a great value there for a home team. It will be a tight matchup, but very interesting to see how Kings are now performing when Jeff Carter is not present.
Yeah, Kings is very young team generally. If we take the first line out of the game, Iafallo, Kopitar and Brown, the oldest player is 26-year-old, and in defense same thing. If we take Drew Doughty out of the picture, oldest player is 26. So this team definitely have some capability to show speed and lot of talent from these young guys if they can execute as expected. But these chances are not coming year after year, so you need to do your best to show that you belong to NHL and maybe even top lines of the NHL. There are players like, for example, Gabriel Vilardi, who has been expected to play well. He hasn't been playing extremely well during this season, and now there's more chances for him during these last 10 games.
Yeah, that's exactly how it goes. When you're a young player and you get your opportunity, you have to grasp it because you're not going to get it every year. Especially in the power play now, when you have the young guys who have the talent, maybe normally you wouldn't get to play power play. You would probably play in the third line, whose role would be to shut down the opponent more than create anything offensively, and then you get pumped into the first line, into the second line. Your responsibility is now to produce and score goals. So this is something that these young guys, of course, always look for, and let's hope that Kings youngsters will step up now when there is a chance.
Tonight there is another list of road favorites. We have Toronto and Montreal naturally, and then we have Winnipeg against Ottawa, and then we have St. Louis against Minnesota after winning twice at home. Now they are on the road, so slight favorite there. If not parlaying these three ones, do you think there is some sense to bet some of these games?
Probably some, yeah. I do like Toronto at Montreal. Of course, we have been playing against Montreal time and time again and doing very well. So Toronto at the moment, they showed now the trade deadline today approaching. They showed that they are all in. They got a couple of guys there. They got even more goaltenders to back up the currently really well performing Jack Campbell. So I think Toronto will go to Montreal and show that this is the best team in Canada at the moment, and they are likely to win it. And the odds are quite nice, 63% in the simulations, and you get odds of minus 125 or the like. Probably going to go down when the game approaches, but at the moment, pretty good bet there on the road. Toronto a better team, Montreal struggling as we've been predicting for the duration of the season. And another one of our favorites in the Canadian division, Winnipeg goes to Ottawa. Ottawa is a team that can surprise, but like we saw Winnipeg playing last couple of games, very well, very good and balanced game. No longer the team that they were maybe last year and seasons before with the offensive talent and maybe a little bit lacking in defense. Now they're playing much more defensively, but very efficient in the offense as well. So balanced team. And Ottawa has pretty much given up this season, trading away everyone who is valid for another team is gone. So not much to be counting on Ottawa here. Winnipeg gets odds of minus 190, which is not enough for our pick, but there is still value of about 5%. The simulations have them 68% favorite. So maybe I would go with the Canadian favorites on the road this time.
Mentioning about the trading, we have a few hours before the trade deadline, and tomorrow's video will take a bit closer look of the impacts of these trades. But So far, which trade do you think has made biggest impact for rest of the season so far?
I think most of the trades have been pretty much complementary, so not exactly matching the needs, the immediate needs of the teams. Of course, the better teams are now preparing for the playoff run. You can see Colorado is adding up goaltenders because last season they lost 3 to injury, so now they have adequate backup. Same thing for Toronto if Frederick Anderson is longer out, so they added Dave Rittich. These sort of trades are complementing the teams, but not high impact per se. But I do think that Boston acquiring Taylor Hall is a massive thing because the situation in Boston has been that they pretty much have one line that is working offensively, and now they are likely to add another if Taylor Hall plays at his best level and not the level we saw in this season in Buffalo. But in Buffalo, not a lot of players performed to their level. So let's hope for Taylor Hall's and Boston's sake that this Hall is gonna be the guy who wins trophies and wins games.
Yeah, 37 games, 2 goals, minus 21 plus minus saldo for so far in Buffalo for Taylor Hall. So that wouldn't make too much sense for anyone to trade for the house mortgage, but hopefully he can play a bit better in Boston than he has been playing in Buffalo because anyhow he has some track record of good results in New Jersey and some also in Edmonton, but of course quite a bit fluctuation in the performance year after year.
Yeah, he's not the sort of player you want to build your team around because of this fluctuation. But in Boston, you already have an established squad of players. They know how to win games. They have a history of success. So I think Taylor Hall is there to learn some things, and he should be a good fit at the wing there.
Let's see how he fits. Not Boston playing tonight, but anyhow, good games again, and we'll be back with more trade analysis tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.